It's certainly grown really fast, and I don't think any of us would have had the audacity to predict it would grow as fast as it has. But I think we always believed it had the chance to be a really significant business, and that's because just inside of Amazon, which is a really strong technology company, we had a lot of internal development teams that wanted help moving faster, more cost effectively, and building their applications on top of an infrastructure technology platform. And so the fact that Amazon really wanted this made us think that third parties would really want it. And then, of course, I don't think we would have predicted that it would be a $15 billion revenue run rate business growing a little bit over 40% year over year this quickly, and that I don't think we would have predicted that we would have several times the size business of the next 14 providers combined, or that we'd have millions of active customers, or that we'd have a 6 to 7 year head start. So all those things were big surprises to us.
Of course, your competitors now want this too. How do you make sure Amazon stays in the leading position?
Well, I think there's a few things. I mean, it's not a surprise to us that every large technology company in the world is interested in building a replica of what AWS has done. It's such a great value proposition for customers that it's why it's being adopted so fast, so others will want to participate. I think that there are some real differences between the platforms today. I think the first thing is that AWS just has a lot more functionality by a large amount than anybody else, and we're also iterating at a faster clip, so that gap in capability continues to extend. And I think there are really different ecosystems around these platforms. It's not just the thousands of systems integrators who've built practices around AWS, but most ISVs or SaaS providers will adapt their software to work on one technology infrastructure platform. Some will do two, very few will have the time to do three. And they all start with AWS just because we have such a significant market segment leadership position. And then I think the maturity of the platforms are also in really different places. We have this expression we use internally that there's no compression algorithm for experience. And that's because you just can't learn certain lessons until you get to different elbows of the curve and scale. And with several times the size business of the next 14 providers combined, they just haven't learned those lessons yet. And so you see that in all kinds of manifestations of performance.
You just added GE as a customer. Same time, you lost Spotify to Google, Bank of America to Microsoft. Tell us about the lengths that you're going to not just get new customers, but make sure you keep the customers that you have.
Yeah, we have millions of active customers, and the way to think about an active customer for AWS is it's a non-Amazon entity that's used our platform in the last 30 days. So we have millions of active customers, and they span the gamut. So, most of the big successful startups have built their businesses completely from scratch on top of AWS, and these are companies like Pinterest and Airbnb and Slack and Domo and Robinhood. But over the last 3 years, the enterprise and public sector adoption has really dramatically increased in the cloud and in AWS. And you see every meaningful vertical business segment using AWS, whether if you're talking about oil and gas, it's Shell and BP and Hess. In financial services, it's Capital One, Intuit, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and FINRA. In manufacturing, GE, you mentioned, they've been actually working with AWS for a long time. They're moving 9,000 applications to AWS. And Schneider Electric and Philips and technology, Netflix runs completely everything on top of AWS, even though we compete with them in our video business. And then in the public sector, we have nearly 3,000 government agencies worldwide using AWS. So we just have a lot more customers in every imaginable segment than you'll find elsewhere.